Shalom, Israel, Shalom, Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shah, Barakatham, to all of the saints worldwide on the four corners, all of the brothers and sisters being diligent in this thing and making sure that we can get the word out. All of the sisters that's at home, helping the brothers stay strong and supporting the brothers so that they can get this word out. And just the Most High, man, the Spirit for waking us up and keeping us alive so that we can get this word out. So that's all we care about, man. We just trying to do this work. And right now, I wanted to bring to the table another angle. I wanted to bring another angle to the table. Because we do a lot, especially the Israelites, we do a lot of precepts. Like, nobody got us with the precepts. Nobody got us with the precepts. We got all the precepts. Nobody got us with the doctrine. We know the doctrine. You understand? What Esau got us with Esau, and we starting to get him with history. So ain't nobody got us with history. We got the history. But what Esau may have the upper hand in is archaeology and biblical scholarship. And I know one of the big things in SOT is scholarship. Like, we dealing with trying to produce scholars. Okay, we want to be on the front line, bringing scholarship out and bringing this word out as strong as possible. So what you see right now is the results of Esau's scholarship, because a lot of the sources that we get come from Esau. A lot of the sources we get come from other sources that are trustable, but people who have done diligent work, and they not even Israelites. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love the Most High, to them who are called according to his purpose. Salakia, to them who are the called according to his purpose. We are the called. We are the nation above other nations. We are the chosen ones. You understand? We are the ones that the Most High, we are the apple of the Most High's eye, man. So everything was done for us. Ezra's tell us that that the world was created for our sakes. Okay? So anything that happens in the course of this world is really for our benefit, man. If you chosen. If you're not chosen, you know, that's your lot. But if you are chosen, everything that happens is for your benefit. Now, these scriptures were upheld by people that's not Israelites. I'm gonna show you something real quick. We're gonna go to 1 Maccabees 3:48. Classic scripture. Once again, nobody knew about this until the Israelites brought it out. But 1 Maccabees, matter of fact, let's start 1 Maccabees 2:48. So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles and out of the hand of the kings. Neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. So the Maccabees were strong warriors, man. Like, they was not playing. But let's pay attention to what's really going on here. They recovered their scrolls. They recovered their heritage out of the hand of the Gentiles. That's what's going on right now. We not necessarily fighting with swords and spears, but we fighting with word and truth right now. And we recovering our word back, man. And when we getting it back, we had an interesting part in history, because other people have had their hand in it. So now we got to go back. We got to relearn things, right? We've been taught that you don't have to keep the law. We got to relearn things. We got to go back and do our own scholarship. I'm getting to the point. 1 Maccabees 3:48. And lay open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. This is the kicker. The heathen did so well at covering this up and making this book look like it's theirs, that over time they really started to believe that it was theirs. So now, when we look back in time, you know, on the surface level, it looks like it's theirs. But the Spirit has revealed that it's ours, right? Since they thought it was theirs, they went the extra mile. They went 200 miles an hour and got all of this research done. Archaeology. They over there right now digging up stuff, man. They over there right now digging up stuff. They over there digging up figurines of Israelite head, of an Israelite head figurine they found. And it got dreads. It got the whole thing. I'll pull it up at the end of the video. Matter of fact, I'll just pull it up. I'll put it right there. Okay? So the figurine, boom. You know what I'm saying? Like, we found that junk. And that's because the Most High put it in their spirit to keep doing that. They proven that it was us the whole time. But it's still in their heart to dig and search. Carbon dating and so forth. So don't get discouraged. Now, what we found this week was very interesting. I'm going to show you two things. You got to write this down. It's called the synoptic problem. The synoptic problem is the problem of literary relationships among the first three synoptic gospels: Matthew, Mark, and Luke. So we're looking at the literary relationships between Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Okay? And it attempts to ask questions like, did they use the same sources to write those books? Which was the primary source? Was it Matthew? Was Mark the primary? You know, we know that Luke drew off of the other two. But which one was the primary, Matthew or Mark? Or was there another source that they were both using that was the primary? And then also variations between each. This is called the synoptic problem. Scoffers will try to use this against the scriptures to their own detriment. They'll try to use this against the scriptures to their own detriment. They'll say, well, how come Matthew saw this, but then Mark saw that? Well, first of all, if we was in a room with 100 people, okay, and a man walked in with a gun and he had his face covered up, each one of those 100 people would have different details in their story. And I do not expect each one of those people to give every detail that the previous person gave. So what do I mean by that? They come and interrogate you. Hey, what did you see? Oh, man, I saw a man. He had on some blue jeans and some Jordans. And it was a long gun. I don't even know what it was. It was long, but we just got on the ground. And then the next man might be like, yo, this man had on a Dallas Cowboys jersey, you know. So this is what you see in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. One of the brothers, Naphtali, SOT, he was like, hey, man, all of the Gospels actually report different things, okay? And so they do. Like, Matthew is focused on the Hebrew roots of this thing. Like, he focused on speaking to the Israelites who know the Israelite culture. So he going through genealogies. He talking about this, that, and the third. He's doing specific things that you got to understand the culture to get. Okay? So that's what he's worried about. Then Mark is worried about something else. Luke is actually a historian. So Luke is writing from the historical perspective, and he's going into if you look at, I want to say it's Luke chapter 3. Let me pull it real quick. Luke chapter 3, verse 1. Okay? So we're going to look at a historical record, man. Like, Luke is a meticulous historian. Look what he says. Now, in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar, Pontius Pilate being governor of Judea, and Herod being tetrarch of Galilee, and his brother Philip, tetrarch of Iturea, and of the region of Trachonitis. And so they going through all of this stuff because guess what? A historian got maps. He got timelines. He can place Yahushua's life directly in a particular place in the world, directly in a particular setting during time. Because now, with this historical record, I can go into Roman records to corroborate what the Bible's saying. I can go into Eastern records that let us know that Israel was there during this time period to corroborate the scriptures. I can go into archaeology, okay? And this is something that fiction cannot do. Fiction cannot go and say, usually when you read a fiction book, it'll say, once upon a time in the land of Oz. You know what I'm saying? It'll say once upon a time, so it won't give you a specific time, and it won't give you a specific place. Why? Because it wants your imagination to run. When you dealing with truth, they gonna give you the details. Yo, it was last Thursday at 8 o'clock. I was outside of Keith in them house, and we was chilling. You know what I'm saying? And you know these are real people in real places. All right. So, the next point that I want you to look at is there's a thing called Johannine literature. Johannine literature. Okay? And this is dealing with all of the writings that were reportedly written by the Apostle John. So we talking about the Gospel of John, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, and we talking about Revelation. Okay? These are called Johannine literature. This is going to be important a little bit later. The collection of New Testament works that are traditionally attributed to John the Apostle, or a collection of Johannine community members. So the Johannine community members may have been John's scribes. Or if you're a skeptic or a scoffer and you don't believe that John wrote it, whatever, that's fine. The scribes who wrote the letters and who understood what John passed down to them. Okay? That will be Johannine literature. Let's go to 1 Peter 3 and 15 real quick. 1 Peter 3 and 15 reads, "But sanctify Yahweh power in your hearts, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh you a reason of the hope that is in you, with meekness and fear." So you got to have that meekness and that fear when you're doing it. You don't want to come with the wrong spirit. We're not saying build yourself up to the point where you know everything, but we're saying lean on that scholarship that was done unwittingly by your enemies for your benefit. Okay? So what I looked at earlier this week, this chart that you're looking at right now, shows you the differences between the synoptic gospels and Johannine literature. Okay? The synoptic gospels, and you can do the timeline on your own. Do the timeline on your own. The video, pause the video, write the numbers down, whatever. But according to Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the Yahushua sat down and ate the Passover with the disciples. According to the book of John, chapter 19, Yahushua did not sit down and eat the meal with the disciples. Now, some may feel as if this is a discrepancy. It's alarming at first, because when I first saw it, I was like, I was put off, you know what I'm saying? And it took me a while to kind of reconcile that. But in light of the synoptic problem, right? The synoptic problem dealing with many different synopses going on at the same time, many different points of view, right? This may not be a discrepancy. Instead, this may be a strength of the Bible. And let's look at this. Let's look at this. You may say, okay, so it's a different timeline. So somebody lying. That's true. You may be saying that. But I challenge you to look at it like this. Each account is a little different, which you expect if there's multiple witnesses. But each account tells the key elements all happened in order. Each account tells that key elements all happened in order. Yahushua sat down with his disciples and ate a meal in the evening. After they ate the meal, he told them that one of them will betray him. After they ate the meal, Peter denied them 3 times. After they ate the meal, they left and went to a garden to pray. While they were in the garden, you get what I'm saying? This pattern is the same throughout each gospel account. And I'm going to show you why that's so crazy. After they went to the garden, he was taken captive, and he was delivered up to the authorities. The next morning, he shows up in front of Pilate. I have all of this documented. Okay? So each account says that he was crucified and he rose on the first day of the week. And each account also says that Mary comes to the tomb early that morning. And she says it was after the Sabbath each time. So key details are the same. Do not let scoffers tell you that the Bible's not reliable. I'm going to show you why. What you're looking at right now is manuscript evidence for ancient writings. Okay? So, the writings of Caesar, the writings of Caesar were written between 144 BC. Okay? The earliest copy they have is 900 AD. That's 1,000 years later, and they only got 10 manuscripts. And nobody doubts that Caesar was a person. Nobody doubts that Caesar wrote, the articles in question. Nobody doubts that. Plato, 427 BC to 347 BC. The earliest copy they have is 900 AD. The time span there is 1,200 years, and they have 7 manuscripts. Nobody doubts that Plato was a historical person. Nobody doubts that Plato's writings are Plato's writings. Nobody. You can go all day, man. Tacticus, 100 AD to 1100 AD, 1,000-year time span in between. They only got 20 manuscripts. They have 20 manuscripts, okay? Or fragments of manuscripts. They may not be extant manuscripts, meaning they may not be the entire manuscript, but they, 20 manuscripts or fragments. The closest one to the scriptures, the closest one to the Bible, is the Iliad by Homer. That was written 900 BC. This is, if you want to kind of gauge the time, that's around the time of Solomon, around the time of Rehoboam and all them boys in Kings. So 900 BC. Earliest copy they have is 400 BC. That's 500-year time span, but they got 643 manuscripts. Compared to the New Testament, this is why I want to hit this home real hard. The New Testament was written between 40 and 100 AD. The whole thing. The earliest copy we have that we can date back, based off of Esau's evidence, is 125 AD. That's a 25-year to 50-year difference between the time that the events were written and the time that we have manuscripts to prove it. And on top of that, we got 24,000 manuscripts / manuscript fragments available to look at. Okay? So concerning reliability, there is no document of antiquity with more compelling evidence than the New Testament. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Nothing comes close. So when you looking at Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and you trying to put together the pieces on why some of these things don't fit, keep in mind that they writing about things that happened 50 years ago based off of verbal communication sometimes, and also they had other sources, right? So they're getting you the information you need. Trust that, because it's 4 of them. That's why the scripture says, let everything be established at the mouth of 2 to 3 witnesses. Okay? I will put that precept down at the bottom, but let everything be established at the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. All right? So, in closing, according to many sources, the book of John was written 85 to 90 AD. Matthew, Mark, and Luke were all written between the 50s and 60s and would not have had access to John's account because John was written later. Notice, John is the only gospel to claim in the text to be an eyewitness, although we know that Yahushua had a follower named Levi or Matthew. Okay, and we know that Mark, a lot of scholars contest that they may be John Mark. So that might be one of the Johns that was mentioned in the disciple list as well. Okay, so 3 of them are possibly eyewitnesses, and the book of John claims to be an eyewitness. The subtle differences found within the text should be viewed as a strength of biblical narrative. It proves that these documents were written by different men in different locations at different periods of time, over 2,000 years ago. The important facts all remain the same. Yahushua ate with his disciples, who was betrayed by one of his followers, arrested at night, delivered unto death, and rose on the first day of the week. And all of those things are recorded in each of the gospel accounts. So if that's not enough evidence to help you understand why some of these things may not line up perfectly in the gospel accounts, I don't know what to tell you. But just put it like this. Every time you read an ancient book, you're reading something that was written thousands of years ago. And the first copy that they have to prove that that was a real record was 1,000 years later. When you read the Bible, it was written 2,000 years ago. And we have copies in museums that date within 100 years of that. So if that's not reliable, nothing is. Shalom.